بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم لا حول ولا قوة إلا بالله العلي العظيم الحمد لله رب العالمين وصلى الله على سيدنا محمد وآله الطيبين الطاهرين
اللهم صل على محمد وعلى محمد.
اللهم أخرجني من ظلمات الوهم وأكرمني بنور الفهم اللهم افتح علينا أبواب رحمتك وانشر علينا خزائن علومك برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. Alhamdulillah, we have tawfiq to study the third letter of Ayatullah Bahari Hamedani as published in Tadhkirat al-Muttaqin. It says that this letter was written to the ambassador of Baghdad, Safir Baghdad. Maybe meaning Iran's ambassador to Baghdad, or maybe Iraq's ambassador to Tehran, but I think it's most likely that must be Iran's ambassador to Iraq, which was in the capital Baghdad. This makes more sense because Ayatollah Bahari Hamedani was in Najaf, and of course later he moved to Iran, but when we say Safir Baghdad, maybe it means Safir of Iran in Baghdad. In the previous letters, we had just murasala, like correspondence, communication. But in the second one, we had just murasala. In the first one, we had ta'liqeh. Ta'liqeh means like a footnote, or writing on margin. So maybe when here again says ta'liqeh, so maybe he wrote this on the same letter, on the same paper that had some writing, some letter from that ambassador, because it says in ta'liqeh. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Ya Mahmud al-Khisal wa Hasan al-Fi'al. O the one whose traits of character are praised and whose actions are good. Either he's writing this as a way to address the ambassador, who was a believer, or maybe this can be also an address to a kind of dhikr for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it seems more to be an address to the ambassador. Anyway, Mahmud al-Khisal means someone whose traits of character are praised, and Hasan al-Fi'al means someone whose actions are beautiful. He says, I see that now and then, sometimes when you are writing to others, you remember this insignificant servant of God. If you don't have paper, borrow from your neighbor. I don't know what he meant. Either meaning that why you don't write to me more, if it's because you don't have paper. It was a kind of humorous way of saying that if the reason for not writing more is that you don't have paper, you can borrow from someone. Or maybe he had written something inside another letter, because it says Zemne Murasali Diyaran. So when you are in the middle of what you write to other people, remember me. So he says then, Ya makon ba kharsavaran takht u taz, Ya ke pur kon khane ra az lut u az. He says, either don't sit and stand, don't make friendship with those who ride donkeys, or if you want to make friendship with those who ride donkeys, you must make your house full of food and goods, because these people and their donkeys need food. So perhaps it means that if you want to, be loyal to your friendship, you need to prepare what is needed, but in a very humble way. And he considers himself as a person who rides donkey. He says, although it's long time, I have no detailed information about your situation, but I hear from here and there that you have developed interest in irfan, and you sit with urafa and dervish, darawish, Sufis. He says, I am hearing this, that you have developed interest in irfan and you are sitting with mystics and Sufis. But few points. First, you must know that it's not that every Sufi, everyone who is in this path, is honest and reliable. Be careful. And then he makes mention of this poem, which is famous in Farsi. نقد صوفی نه همه صافی و بی غش باشد ای بسا خرقه که مستوجب آتش باشد. نقد in the past was a way, to examine coins. Some coins were genuine, some coins like golden coin, dinar or silver coin or dirham, some were fake. So they had to examine them. It's called naqd dirham. He says it's not that every coin that every Sufi has is genuine and is honest. There are many khirqa. Khirqa is the clothes of Sufis, which is normally very simple and maybe, sometimes, they are torn apart or, they are, just stitched. So he says there are many khirqa which need to be burnt. It's not that they are always on genuine spiritual people. Some people just do this to deceive, to show off. So he says, one point is this: remember that not every person that appears or is thought to be spiritual, to be an arif, to be a Sufi, is really like that. Number two, whoever is a seeker of ma'rifah, because irfan is a matter of ma'rifah. For us, the main thing is ma'rifah of Allah, intimate ma'rifah, understanding of Allah subhanahu. So everyone who is seeking this path needs to consider and observe certain conditions. First, you must look after your physical health. Sahihul mizaj. It is very interesting that actually today, when we had Adab al-Muta'allimin, we were talking about this issue of mizaj and, balgham, etc. It's great coincidence, or maybe, more than coincidence. In the classic medicine, not modern medicine, they have lots of discussions about mizaj, about, some people may translate disposition, but means your condition of body. Some people, for example, they say have cold mizaj. Some people have warm mizaj. Those who have cold mizaj, they need to eat food which are warm. Some meats are warm, some meats are cold. For example, meat of cow is cold. Meat of camel is warm. This is not about temperature. This is a different thing. They have lots of discussions about this. And also we have some liquids inside. And balance is very important. There is balgham, there is safra, there is soda. Safra means yellow. Soda means black. So he says health is very important. We have to be very careful about our physical health. And if there is an illness, we have to try to treat it. Sometimes maybe soda is more than balanced position. And then because this is there and makes some movement in the body, you think you have developed love. You think, I love, you cry, but it's just because of some physical, liquids or, some like hormones in your body. Sometimes, for example, if safra, which is, developed in the liver, for example, or close to liver, it's too much, then you may become bad-tempered. You have to be careful. Sometimes if balgham is too much, you would not understand difficult things. So he says, فَلَا بُدَّ مِنْ اعْتِدَالِ الْمِزَاج. So the first thing he mentioned is look after your health and try to have a balanced condition in your body. And observe etiquettes of shar, adab of shar. And in particular, refrain from sins and be in pain if sin happens or is, available. Be afif, be modest and observe chastity. Be saduq, truthful, very truthful. Refrain from fisq and fujur and ghadr and khiyana and makr and hila. Fisq, transgression, means to commit sins. Fujur, the same, commit sins, crimes. Ghadr means, to deceive. Khiyana means to betray. Makr means to make plots. And hila, the same. So he says, try to be an honest, modest, truthful person who is not committing sins. He says, because if you want to reach ma'rifah and irfan, akhlaq, moral traits of character are needed. And you must have ilmul fiqh also, so that you do all the wajibat and avoid all the haram. And he says, Tarikus salat, someone who doesn't say his or her prayers. Bal tarikun nawafil, someone who doesn't do nawafil should not talk about irfan. If you don't do your nawafil, you should not think that you are on the path of irfan. It's very important. And then he says, you must be not concerned about ma'ash. Don't be concerned about your, livelihood, about your ma'ash. Either because you have money, imma bitamawwul, you have money, you are rich. Or you are content and you put your trust in Allah. Some people, when they have money, they don't worry. Some people, because they have tawakkul and they are content, they don't worry. But if you keep thinking about dunya and collecting money, etc., it's not going to work. You may work, but not be concerned that much about it. Don't let this become your main issue of concern and interest. He says, کسی که حواس او پیش سنگک است باید در فکر نان باشد خربزه او را آب خواهد بود. It's very interesting for me because this is what even today we say, and I didn't expect that it was said at that time. Because we say, فکر نان باش که خربزه آب است. Naan means bread. Kharbuz means melon. So this is a popular proverb that they say, think about bread, melon is water. What does it mean? It means that With melon, you cannot fill your stomach. Yeah, you must have bread. But this is used in other cases many times. For example, when people do some things which are marginal and neglect about the main things, substantial things, they say, فکر نان باش که خربزه آب است. We use it many times. He says sangak is also a special type of Iranian bread. Sangak, sang means a stone. You might have seen they make it in the oven, which is covered with stones. They put the paste of the bread on the stone, and normally it's like a big triangle. It's called sangak. So as long as you are thinking about sangak and about bread, okay, think about bread. Don't enter the path of irfan. Let alone, na'udhu billah, make irfan as a way to making bread for yourself. To make your dunya through irfan. Such person would never find light. He says, al-hirfatu ghayrul ma'rifah. If this has become your job, your occupation, something from which you say everyone has a job, I am also talib, I am a arif. If this is your job, from this you are making money and you're living, no, this is not a job that you then expect some wage for it, some income for it. And interest in shahawat and tabi'ah, the physical life, is different from interest in akhirah. You cannot have dunya and akhirah together. I often say to people, and to myself of course, and that some people, we think, some of us, we think we are very clever. I don't want to forget my akhirah, but I want to have dunya and akhirah together. Yeah, many people may say, okay, I do things in the way that I can have dunya and akhirah. Not just akhirah, not just dunya and akhirah. I say this doesn't work. This is wrong. Because if you want to have dunya and akhirah, then you would limit your choices to the choices that secure your dunya and your interests and pleasures of dunya, and then you say, okay, I will do also something for my akhirah. For example, I get some money and I do some charity, or I do some ibadah on the side. No, this is wrong. In my understanding, this is wrong. We have to choose akhirah. Our aim should be akhirah. But there are many ways to work for akhirah. Choose a path that you would have what we need and the minimum from dunya for yourself, your family. Among choices of akhirah, don't choose first something suitable for dunya and say among things which can work for dunya, I choose also something for akhirah. So I have 10 options for dunya, I can do 10 things. I choose that one which is good for akhirah too. No. Choose akhirah and see what can you do for akhirah. Among them, choose something that you don't suffer in dunya. You don't expect you to be zahid, but at least first choose your akhirah and then choose what can give you what you need from dunya for yourself and family. These are two totally different things. We should have dunya and akhirah, yes, but which at the service of the other? Dunya and akhirah, but dunya at the service of akhirah, akhirah at the service of dunya, or equally important? No, they're not equally important. You should have akhirah and dunya at the service of akhirah. This maybe looks very simple, but this is very, very important. This is very, very fundamental thing. So he says dunya and akhirah are like two dharra. Dharra are two women who are married to the same man. Suppose a man has two wives. These two wives Of course, there are always, exceptions, and there is no need, to be always like that. But many times these two wives are not very happy with each other. Many times they don't want to see each other even. So he says, ذرتان متباینتان ولا تجتمعان, like, نقیزان, like two contradictory things. So he says dunya and akhirah would not, be happy to be together. If you want to marry both of them, you marry akhirah and try to only marry akhirah. Dunya is coming. Of course, it would not be marriage to dunya then. You don't marry dunya. As Amir al-Mu'minin said, طَلَّقْتُكَ ثَلَاثًا. Bahari, anyway, after this, you must be always honoring ilm and ulama. Respect ilm and ulama. Read the hadith about ilm, about knowledge, about ulama. And never underestimate or humiliate servants of Allah. Whoever, might be alim, maybe ordinary person, maybe someone you know, maybe a stranger. Don't underestimate servants of Allah. He says the first problem that can happen in a salik, in a wayfarer, is that he may think ulama are not, ulama is zahir, those who know these normal sciences are not important. They say only irfan is important, only urafa are important. They may then underestimate fuqaha, mutakallimin, philosophers, etc. No, never underestimate anyone. Never think you are better. Then he says, should be always hazin. You should have huzn. Huzn, of course, we explained in some lectures, in my humble understanding, means a kind of sadness which is more a matter of seriousness. You have concerns, you have deep worries, but not that you are depressed or you are so sad that you are hopeless. No, you are sad but very active. بشره في وجهه, as we have in hadith, al-mu'minu bishruhu fi wajhihi wa huznuhu fi qalbihi. When people look at your face, they should see a smile. You are happy. In society, we should, make each other happy. إدخال السرور في قلوب المؤمنين. It's very important to make them happy. But this should not come with your heart being negligent, heedless. There must be grief in the heart. It means concern, seriousness. But if your heart is also, too much happy, that's a problem. If you are too much farih, it's a problem. And then he says you must be katuman lil asrar, very much keeping secrets of this journey and what may happen to you, what you hear from your ustad, keep it confidential. We talked about this before and also in the followership. الحاصل هزاران نکته می باید به غیر از حسن و زیبایی. The summary is that when you want to learn from someone, especially in the path of spirituality, thousands of things are to be checked. It's not just, how nice this person looks, how nice this person speaks. There are many things to observe. Who knows this person? Who are his teachers? Who have recognized him? What achievement he has? Has he been known to other communities? All of a sudden, he has appeared with no background. Many things to observe. He says this paper has no capacity to increase. And if you see these conditions, which are just drops of oceans, but if you see this in someone, okay, then you may consider them as someone that you can benefit from. If you don't see these things that I said, then tell them, قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا السَّالِكُونَ لَا أَسْلُكُ مَا تَسْلُكُونَ وَلَا أَنْتُمْ سَالِكُونَ مَا أَسْلُكُ وَلَا أَنَا سَالِكٌ مَا سَلَكْتُمْ لَكُمْ سَلْكُكُمْ وَلِي سَلْكِي. Similar to Surah قُلْ يَا أَيُّهَا الْكَافِرُونَ. Salikun means wayfarers. If you see wayfarers who don't observe taqwa, who don't respect ulama, and all other things that we said, tell them, oh, the wayfarers, I don't follow your way. You are not following my way. I am not certainly following your way. That's your way for you, and I have my own way. That's your way of spirituality, that's my way of spirituality. He says, in any case, I didn't have the intention of giving you mau'izah so that I say something, complete and adequate. And I didn't also have the intention of writing, something about myself, etc., so that I would say in the way that I like. Just it happened to me to write 2 words for you, be wrapped navishtam. So he said, I wrote it without observing connections and joints. There was no formality. I just thought that I should share with you these few points. گر تو نمی پسندی تغییر ده قضا را. This is also a beautiful saying that it has a story that they say that one alim, the one that I heard from late Ayatullah Gilani was like this. As much as I remember, I heard it in the beginning of my talabegi from a recorded cassette of Ayatullah Gilani rahmatullah alayh, that there was one of ulama that of course it could be also before that, but this story was very beautiful. It involved this poem. گر تو نمیپسندی تغییر ده قضا را means if you don't like this, change قضا of Ilahi, qadar of Ilahi, divine decree. Okay? And of course you cannot change it, so you should be happy. But the story that he said was very amazing. He mentioned one of the ulama, I don't remember the name, in Tehran, and he saw some man and a woman, dancing and, involved in sinful gathering. And in front of him, they didn't stop when they saw him. And they were, dancing, etc. And this singer woman said to this alim, گر تو نمی پسندی تغییر ده قضا را. If you don't like what we do, change قضا of Allah. Meaning that, this is the decree, the decision of Allah that we do this. And then this alim, with very seriousness, he said, تغییر دادم قضا را. And they were moved, they changed. He was a wali of awliyaullah, and he asked Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide them. And then they stopped, like Sahara of Musa. It was amazing that he said, تغییر دادم قضا را. So it's possible because we believe that qaza of Allah depends on factors, and if these factors change, if an overriding element comes like dua, like sadaqah, saliyah, rahim, can change. Even in the night of Qadr we say qaza is there, things will be decided, but وَلِلَّهِ فِيهِ الْمَشِيَّةِ, still Allah can change later. So Ayatullah Bahari Hamedani says, if you don't like what I have written, تغییر ده قضا را. Change قضا. Muhammad al-Bahari, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bless his soul. I wanted to also mention something from Masnavi about this issue of, Sufis, and there's a beautiful story, but because we want to listen, inshallah, to our brothers and sisters in Lopiano, so inshallah, please, if I don't remember, remind me. I share with you this story of a person who went to a khanaqah where Sufis are, and had a kind of experience which is very important. It was kind of awakening. There are many good Sufis, mashallah, but there are also people who are not really spiritual, or if they are spiritual, they don't have proper understanding, they don't have proper commitment of Sharia. So we are not against Sufism, we are very interested in every person who is seriously trying to be spiritual, but how, the manners, the methods, the teachers, the techniques, all are important. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen.
اللهم صل على محمد وآل محمد. جزاكم الله خير شيخنا.
May Allah bless you, inshallah.
So inshallah all of us are eager also